Hello, I'm Jason, and on behalf of Kimberly, Nancy, Twyla, and Grady, I'd like to welcome you to our presentation on overcrowding in Venice, Italy. Venice, Italy has a long history as one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world. Established in the 5th century, Venice is beloved for its architecture, canals, bridges, and cuisine. Tourists flock to Venice to see St. Mark's Basilica, view priceless art at Doge's Palace, and to take one of their world-famous gondola rides. All of this helps Venice to rank in the top 50 most visited cities worldwide each and every year. In the 1960s, roughly 500,000 tourists visited Venice per year. Fast forward to present day, and the city now hosts over 5.5 million tourists each year. However, as shown on the graph pictured to the right, Venice's local population has been rapidly decreasing over the years as tourism increases. In fact, the population has dropped from 175,000 to just 50,000 in only 50 years. These millions of tourists are visiting a city which covers just 3 square miles. As a result of this massive influx of tourists, overcrowding often occurs. Here is Twyla to tell us more about this issue.
As Chase said, Venice is only 3 square miles. It is a very small destination, therefore, it is not surprising that overcrowding is the city's biggest problem. Tourists and locals alike have a hard time enjoying the city because of crowds. Venice feels like a permanent rush hour. Locals experience high cost of living and a lack of housing. Overcrowding puts pressure on Venice's infrastructure. Venice's waterways and canals are under constant pressure from motorized boats and cruise ships, leading to further issues of pollution and erosion. Cruise ships add to Venice's overcrowding because they bring thousands of tourists in short periods of time, putting a strain on the city's attractions. Overcrowding increases the city's waste and litter. In the Middle Ages, Venice was named La Serenissima, meaning the most serene one, in honor of its beauty. Now this beauty is questioned. Venice narrowly missed the endangered cities list determined by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization because of global warming and over-tourism. Grady will continue with the global effects of over-tourism.
Globally, overtourism echoes and is a byproduct of substantial population growth in the 20th and 21st centuries. From 1927 to 2023, the global population grew from 2 billion to a staggering 8 billion, with 10 billion people on the horizon this century. There is a positive correlation between this unhinged population explosion and the number of international tourist arrivals, contributing to the deranged effects of overtourism and subsequent environmental devastation and cultural disruption. In the early 1970s, international arrivals averaged 166 million tourists annually, compared to 2019's 1.5 billion tourist arrivals. The introduction of large commercial airliners and the low-cost counterparts aided this mass expansion of tourism, as did loose tourism regulations. Nations choosing to demarket destinations and regulate international arrivals juxtapose this decision with tourism-based economies contributing a staggering 10% of global GDP, a $10 trillion valuation in 2019. To further discuss solutions to overtourism, here's Kimberly.
As Grady pointed out previously, tourism is becoming a global concern because of the increase in population. Many areas have started trying to combat overtourism. For example, Venice, starting in January 2024, will enforce a daily fee for tourists entering the city in hopes of regulating the amount of people coming in. They have also put a ban on large cruise ships docking in the waterways of Venice. On an average day in Venice, they could have as many as 44,000 people disembark off cruise ships. This ban will greatly reduce the number of people entering the city. It will also have an environmental impact and help maintain the clear waterways in Venice. Another example of how other countries are trying to gain control of overtourism is by putting restrictions on Airbnb accommodations. Both Barcelona and Dublin have started putting in ordinances that will restrict people and limit Airbnb accommodations. I will now hand you over to Nancy so she can explain the impact that COVID-19 had on overtourism.
Thanks, Kimberly. Yes, Venice is heavily reliant on tourism, and the COVID-19 lockdown severely impacted the area, leading to many closures. As tourism has returned, there's a growing debate about whether Venice should continue to be so dependent on tourism, with discussions focusing on exploring more sustainable alternatives for its future. Richard Butler argues that while the negative impacts of over-tourism should be avoided, he emphasizes that tourism has historically brought significant social, economic, and even environmental benefits to many parts of the world. The UNWTO has proposed 6 lines of action for building back better in post-pandemic tourism recovery. We should improve public health by bettering hygiene and restoring trust, promote social inclusion and equity in tourism by including the vulnerable, prioritize the conservation of biodiversity and natural resources in tourism destinations, mitigate the impacts of tourism on climate change by promoting sustainable and low carbon tourism practices, encourage the adoption of circular economy principles in tourism to reduce waste, promote recycling, and minimize tourism's environmental impact, and finally, improve governance and finance for sustainable tourism through partnerships and responsible investment. Thanks for watching.